you gotta take a look at the shooting itself, and I'm gonna break it down for a minute to one specific thing. Focus for a minute on the shooting, okay? You get this guy, no matter who it is, no matter what his motive is, it doesn't matter. You're going to go up and you're going to drive a car, you're going to shoot however many rounds into a car that's standing still at an intersection in Las Vegas, okay? You with me? It doesn't matter who it is. Somebody's going to do that. And in that car is Tupac Shakur, biggest rapper at that time, and Suge Knight. Now, take Tupac out of the car for a minute. Let's take him out of the car. Just make him disappear for a minute. And what do you have? You got the biggest man in the music industry, arguably, at that time. Okay, certainly the biggest in rap. And one of the most dangerous when you think of the amount of street cred, money, access to weapons, access to police, one of the most dangerous men you could have out there. And if you, let's say you killed Tupac and Suge's still standing there, you don't think he's going to want to know who put a hit out on him? You know, you got to, it's one thing to say, all right, we followed Pac and we chased him down and we saw him in front of his apartment complex, kind of like the Gaddafi hit where you could drug him out by himself and they shot him and that was the end of it. But no matter how mad you are at Tupac or Suge, if you're going to shoot at one of them, you better get both of them because the guy that's the most dangerous one in the car is the one that's left standing. Yeah. And Vegas police kind of tipped us off to that because Brent Becker said, you know, the investigation of the killing or attempted killing of a CEO of a company, that's one kind of investigation, but this is the music business, so it's a little bit different. And it started us thinking that, you know, maybe Vegas was kind of wise to what was going on. And that led us backwards to reverse engineer it. And we thought to ourselves, okay, so why would somebody want to kill a Suge Knight? Because you have to ask yourself that. I mean, why would somebody want to kill Tupac? Well, the obvious answer that everybody's talked about, Orlando Anderson, it was that, you know, I'm going to get you back for beating me up at the MGM. And, you know, there it is, case closed. But even if you go with that theory, you still have to explain why somebody would be brazen enough to try to kill Suge Knight too, because Suge Knight was on the other side of the car. That's not an easy thing to do. No matter how mad you spray that car, you know, there's always a chance you could miss. And then what are going to be the repercussions if you do? Yeah. You feel me? So when you look at it that way, Tupac, just take him out of the car for a minute, and you look at whoever that shooter was or whatever the motives were. They weren't just shooting at Tupac. They knowingly shot at the most powerful man in the record business at that time. Now, that's some major, major huevos right there. Don't matter who you are, okay?
Yeah.
Because you better kill him. Otherwise,
well, I always
you
said,
got to
too, RJ, not to cut you off, but I always said, too, like when people try to say Suge Knight was involved, it's like, why the hell would you put yourself in the car that's going to get shot up? I mean, that's the obvious first question.
And you know what? Yeah. Admittedly, I have to be the one, and I've gone on record as saying this before, you know, when we did the first assassination movies, we got towards Suge Knight and said, well, he certainly had motive to do it, but we could never get past that. We could never get past what you just said. He was in the car. Now, we could think of a lot of examples where, you know, I mean, Suge shot himself in the leg. I mean, you know, he's not opposed to hurting himself if it gets him something in the end. But you really have to look at the common sense of that and say, okay, would he be that brave to say, well, shoot at everything else, hit him, but don't hit me? We could never make that. We could only make a dotted line. We could never connect the dots directly. And that left us open in the first couple of assassination movies. That left us open to some criticism because some people said, well, you're pointing the finger at Suge. And we kind of were indirectly, but we could never make that connection. We could never say definitively, you know, we could never get around that problem. That was always just a big rock in the river, so to speak. And so you can imagine the relief that we felt when we were able to actually make an adjustment to our theory, and it didn't change any of the underlying stuff we had already said. You know, the guards were still told not to carry their weapons and the radios and the whole 9 yards. It didn't change it, but what it did was it actually changed the perspective. It allowed us to turn it a different degree and look at it from a different angle. And so you're absolutely right. That was something that we could never get past. But if you ask any good detective, any good law enforcement, you know, detective or a private investigator, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to say, well, that didn't work out. We went down that path. It didn't work out. So let's go back a few steps. Let's dial it back as far as we need to, and let's look at it a different way. Let's see what works. You just keep running the play till you get it right.